I'm originally from Ethiopia. I came to the United States in 1994. Um, my connection to Mankato dates back to 1972 when my father went to school to Mankato State University when it used to be Teachers Training College. Fast forward, 1994, um, my father made few contacts with locals here in Mankato that he attended college with, and asked them if I can get an opportunity to come to United States. And it happened. It was a long shot, but they basically asked, how is he at school? What's his GPA? Because there is requirement, you have to have certain GPA to get here. And it just happened, and it was a long shot, and I ended up here March 22nd of 1994. The original intent coming to the United States was to go to college. So I straight went to MSU, Mankato State University. At first, I wanted to major in, um, I believe it was medical science. But due to the fact that it's going to take 8 years, I decided to major on something shorter, which turned out to be biology, microbiology, and some computer class, and then some electronics. So I minored in about 3 different areas, and my major was environmental science. Graduated in 1998, and my first internship was working for Blue Earth County Environmental Services. I loved it. I like the fact that I can travel everywhere and drive a truck and sample the farmlands, and I got along with people. I didn't have any problem connecting with people, and I just basically have a rather extrovert approach to people. I usually am positive, so I was pretty oblivious when it comes to, I don't know, race relations in the United States at the beginning. I was quite oblivious. Everything was educational. I lived with white family while attending MSU, so I really picked up their lingo on how to get along with people. And people knew me through the people that sponsored me here. So, that's really how I ended up in southern Minnesota. My mixed race children, Zachary and Tyler. Um, it's a very challenging place to be. Number one, you have to always keep in mind that they only have one mother. And number two, in my case, I'm divorced from her, which means there is a little bit of hostility between us. So, inconvening each other basically is, par for the course. We got divorced because we didn't get along on higher level of things, political point of view, how to go about raising the children. She's very conservative. Um, she voted for Trump, and over the years, we were married for 9 years. So over the years, I got to know her family, very conservative Southern Minnesotans. Nothing wrong as far as open arms, they accepted me for who I am. But when it comes to their perception about African Americans, it's a whole different ballgame. For them, it's almost like I'm not a black person, because they try to distinguish me as, you're not really like other black people. They think that's a compliment. But I've always thought like, man, what does that mean really? The other black people that I meet in southern Minnesota, they're as human beings that I meet anybody else, white, black, it doesn't matter. Like I said, my personality says that I always give people my utmost, positive side to get to know them. And that doesn't mean my 20-something year experience here has been all positive. You and I know it's not. I've had my share of oh boy moments. It's not easy to have mixed race children at all. You're always thinking about letting them be free in their thought, to do whatever they want, to feel like they belong, to feel like they can do whatever they want and they can go anywhere they want. But you are fairly aware that they're not treated the same by everybody else. And I'm saying this, after living here for 20 some years, and due to the fact that I'm also a police officer. I've encountered things that made me like, my boys have been told at least a couple of times that they're going to get deported. Now, is that a racial statement? Probably. The kid that said that to him was a white kid who played soccer with him from pee-wee level. But at some point, he felt like he had to tell him that. And when I didn't let it go. I basically wanted to find out, number one, why it was said. I found out why it was said. It's just what he got from his parents. Their understanding of people like me. They have an assumption that I'm from somewhere, that I'm a Muslim, number one. So that kind of puts me in a little position that they don't really appreciate, which translates to the mistreatment of my kids. So I always have to kind of keep that in mind whenever I talk to my boys. I have to remind them, hey, listen, people will have a perception that you might not be XYZ. You might not be considered normal. Define what, you as a mixed race person, I'm sure you've had your share of where do I fit in? Because I love both sides of my family, but I also find it difficult to express myself because I might offend mom or dad. I try to remove myself from the equation of somebody that might be offended because they chose to do X, Y, Z. I try to let them be kids, but having mixed race children is not easy. It's difficult. That brings me back to why I joined the police force. That was about 6-7 years ago, and on the news I kept seeing Zimmerman stuff and other conflicts between police officers and people of color. I also got a little bit concerned when 6-7 years ago is when we had a huge influx of East Africans, immigrants, first generation immigrants coming to Midwest USA. And I started seeing reactions from people, including my mother of my kids right now. They started making a very strong statement about Somalians and Sudanese people, and it wasn't nice. It was to the lines of, they're going to ruin our country. They're going to change us to a banana republic. They're here to take advantage of our welfare system. It was just, number one, it was baseless because it was their perception. They came here, most of them were helpless. They didn't speak the language well. They didn't understand the mannerisms, so maybe they spoke too loud, or I'm familiar with that kind of approach. Like where I came from, Ethiopia, I've been introduced to people from Somalia, people from Sudan. I kind of expect, I'm familiar with their personalities. And when we communicate with each other, the American way of talking to each other is more like, you see eye to eye. You don't necessarily speak loudly. You certainly have a very, calm demeanor. You don't really use your body to talk. You basically, oh yes, kind of. But if you're from Sudan or from Somalia or from Ethiopia, you tend to speak with your, you basically are expressive, you know. When you want to say you're cold, you say, oh, you know, like you have to explain it. And East Africans, you know, I can't fully speak for all East Africans because there are over 72 different languages that I'm aware of at least. So when they came here, the whole experience for them was different, and the weather was different, and they had a different outfit that they wore. So they looked different, and chances are they got picked on because of it. So I saw the relationship between police and the newcomers getting into a very tense situation. So I figured, you know, the police department has a volunteer program. How can I insert myself to be of some help if it meant alleviating or de-escalating conflict? And that's how it just started. And I basically saw the devolving of communication between people of color and law enforcement. And I basically told myself, you know, I can help. I can make it better if I get myself in there. I had no idea what I signed up for. You know, 6-7 years later now, I realize it's bigger, much bigger, much deeper. East Africans are just people of color. That's it. Their system is set up in such a way that it's not there to benefit people of color. It's not. And that's, you start realizing that when you start reading the history of this country and how it came to be. Now, it doesn't mean everybody's racist. It just means there are accepted norms in Midwest USA. You eat your bacon, you don't complain as much, and you have to respect the cross. There are unspoken codes as a resident of this Midwest that you have to have in order for you to be accepted as somebody that can benefit from the system. Otherwise, you are faced with passive, very, very small microaggressions. You know, you can't, if you fully express yourself as a Muslim, chances of you getting employed are slim to none. Chances of you having a normal encounter with people in power are going to be a bit rocky, because they'll make sure that you're different. They'll let you know you're different. They don't necessarily tell you you're different and we don't like you. They'll just make it difficult. You know, it's not a form of aggression that I'm used to. When I was in Ethiopia, if somebody doesn't like you, they tell you right to your face why they don't like you. There is no secret about that. It's just open book. Over here, it's not nice. They'll basically they'll be very friendly in front of you, but when you're not around, when you get a very different result. The one I remember the most, when I took my wife, my mother of my kids, then to Medelia, small town Medelia, and we went to this restaurant, and a bunch of guys were sitting, rather, dapper looking white guys, and they didn't. Their demeanor was such that they just stared, and their stare never stopped. It was more like they just, while they're eating, they're looking. And I know in American culture, looks, staring mean a whole lot than just words. They're basically saying you are not welcome here. What are you doing here? And I remember mother of my kids at the time, Michelle, she knew I was paying attention, so she kind of, in a very low voice, said, "Don't look over there. Just look away." Like, why are they staring at me? and she would not tell me why, but she knows it's not right. But at the same time, she was not going to change it. It's just that's what they do. Just leave them alone. You know, just walk away. You know, and I did. I did walk away many times. You know, and I never understood why. You know, they don't know me. Why are they so hostile? Some of them even go as far as parking their car too close to where I parked to kind of start something. You know, but I never let it get to me because I know the end result might be something that might end up harming me or harming the people that I'm with. So I try to avoid conflict as much as possible. But there are there are individuals that just are not okay with me being here. As far as the obvious, you know, aggressive behaviors versus the, the not too obvious ones. I'll start with the not too obvious. First time I, the first time we started looking for buying home in Mankato, I remember I was working at Mystic Lake Casino, Prior Lake, and at that day, the day that Michelle went to, you know, inquire about loan, she went to a bank by, I remember by Madison Avenue, and she was accepted fine, and they told her no problem, we'll sign you up, and we'll give you this interest rate, and you know she was. When I got home, she was very ecstatic. We got the loan. We're gonna get this house for the house that we wanted. But you have to stay home tomorrow and co-sign with me. And I remember thinking like, oh boy, so I have to go with you? And she's like, yeah, you're going to be part owner, so they need your signature. And I remember how like she didn't know why I was concerned. She thought I was just didn't want to go because I had some other commitment. Home is very important for, you know, since we're married, we need to have our own home. I'm like, I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried that when I show up to get the loan, things might not go well. She's like, what do you mean? They were fine. You're just overly sensitive, you know? Like, okay, well, I tell you what, we'll go. And you know, if everything goes well, I'll be more than happy, and I'll eat my own pie, and I'll just shut up and apologize. Lo and behold, we showed up at the door. Just the demeanor of the loan officer, his face, how he looked at me, it immediately told me that things were not going to go well. He didn't even look at me. He basically started looking at her the whole time. Oh, hi, Mrs. Asphalt. You know, older gentleman. We sat down there. We were properly dressed up, you know, to look presentable, and we can afford to be in debt for 30 years. So we sat there, and immediately his first statement was, "Well, you know, I kind of have bad news for you. Looks like the interest rate is going to change a little bit." And you know, she was like surprised. Why? And what happened? You know, I thought everything went well, kind of. And I sat there. I wasn't surprised. I just sat there and like, I wonder if this is going to be, you know, too bad to the point where we can't really sign up for the loan. Well, it wasn't bad enough, but it changed. It changed by a couple of percent. And when you're talking $200,000 loan, that makes a difference. I guess where I'm going with that is, if I was a white guy, I would be equity wise, I would have more money today. That signature alone cost me a certain percentage over the years where I have to end up paying for it. Now, this is only my 20 some years existence in USA. I can't imagine how it would be for a black person that can't even get a loan, let alone, you know, get percentage increase. And at the time I was making twice as much as Michelle, so there was no reason for that microaggression. The microaggression, I was doing police work, ended up going to this house, got inside the house, and there was a huge Confederate flag. And we're basically helping a man that was fighting with another man, partly beat up. And essentially, here I was standing looking at the flag and looking at them. They can tell. Basically, I was perplexed. Like, I looked at them, like, you know, I asked him, I point blank, I said, what is that doing there? I mean, I thought you guys lost. So much so that a black man is here to save your ass. And I didn't know why I said that, but I did. And the guy kind of looked at me a little bit perplexed, like, oh, it's just heritage. Yeah, heritage of losers. Why did I do that? I do not know. But it was a reaction. It felt like a slap in the face. Here I am, trying to come and help you out. You still have a flag that represented slavery. I thought that was misplaced. It just did not belong at all. And I just came out of that house feeling like, why am I doing this for? I mean, there are people that are still thinking that I'm below them, and here I am helping them out. So that mentality, it can't register in my head, because where I came from, I grew up thinking that everybody is equal. In the United States, it's a slow realization that there is a system that is set up to keep you thinking that you are never to be equal. You're always to kind of watch your back and feel like you're just temporarily accepted here as long as you can prove that you're a human being. I don't know how you could do that and still continue to exist, but it seems like your existence is not fully accepted. And I understand as a person who came from another country, yeah, it makes sense to me. Maybe that's why. But that's not why, because there are African Americans that are still experiencing the worse than what I actually have seen in my little tenure in the United States. My approach in this is, as you know, I mean, I'm in the police force. I want to understand why people hate me. I want to understand that, right? Because I don't understand how you can hate somebody without knowing or without them inflicting him some kind of hurt on you. And when I guess, moving forward, it can't all be just white people doing the work. It has to be black people also getting out of their comfort zone and stepping up on the plate of power. Power is never given. Power is taken. I guess where I came from, I came from a rather violent country. And when somebody's oppressing you, you have two choices. You just take it or fight back. I think black people need to fight back in a cerebral way. You join the police force, you join the political movement, you show to people that there is no reason to be that hateful. And it goes both ways. If aggression is all you're going to give me, I will respond with aggression equally. So I'm from a Malcolm X side of things. I like peace. I love peace. But if it comes to it, if the safety of my children is threatened because they're black, there is nothing I would not do to make sure they're okay. This passiveness needs to stop. People need to just get up and keep fighting. Despite all the pushback you get, you just need to say, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. I'm here in the land that was taken away from Native Americans. Simple. At least when we came here as immigrants, we didn't do that to the people that lived here. We didn't give them a smallpox-laden blanket. We're here to just work. We're here to make a living. And I don't need to justify my existence to anyone. I'm just a human being just like everybody else. And I think that's what I do. I basically go to the power centers and confront the people that make decisions, asking them, why did you do this? Why did you write that ticket to this person to the extent to which you threw all the ordinances on it, while you wrote a very short synopsis warning to the same level of crime? The only difference being that guy's black and this guy's white. Why did you do that? I want to understand that, because when I write my report, I want to make sure I'm doing it right, because it seems like there's some kind of imbalance here. So the microaggressions define your daily life. That guy that has that huge ticket might not be able to work again because he has a felony charges now. Unlike the white guy that did 10 times worse, who just got slapped in the wrist. I want him to have the same effect of job loss, discomfort, as this man of color. Same thing, they're humans. I guess that's how I see myself as being beneficial, not just standing on the sideline and letting it happen. That's basically how I see it. And peaceful movement is great, but you have to be assertive. You have to step into the power structure, and your voice seems to have more effect when you are inside rather than outside. Oh, this is a French player, Zinedine Zidane. He's what was that World Cup? He's from Algeria. I think he's from Algeria, yeah. And he played for France. And I remember an Italian player. This is World Cup final. Like, everything depended on this, and there was no way this guy would have lost. But Zinedine Zidane was insulted by this Italian player. He basically was a racial epithet of some sort, and he lost it. And he headbutt the player, and they lost the World Cup. And I remember him walking down the stairs and looking at the World Cup and basically spitting at it and just walking away, because it was not worth it to be complacent. And you know, racism is still a problem in soccer. Back then, it was even more. And since then, I like this jersey because it just represents the struggle everybody has. It's really the first BLM jersey. I'm serious. When Zinedine basically walked away saying that I don't want this coveted cup if it means I have to just overlook somebody calling me, you know, probably a rughead. You know, his Arabic background was insulting. So that's what this shirt is about. So